Notice you see in the story, there's Osiris, Isis, and Horus, the father, the mother, and the son. Now, in Sumeria, in Babylon, you had Anu, Enki, and Enlil. So you have two different families, right? Now, because of smear campaign, a lot of people believe that Enki is Osiris. He not. Some people believe Enlil is Osiris. He not. And some people believe that Anu is Osiris. He not. Osiris was here before all of them. Horus and Osiris was here before all of them. Isis was here before all of them, though she is associated with them. She's associated, but she was here before them. Now, when you go back into the earlier ones, you find that Ea, which we call Enki, overthrew one called Ilia. And this particular one became known as Samael. And so they tell you that the son of the mother is the son of Samael, because he was sent here first, and they tried to falsely accuse her of sleeping with him and call her a harlot, which is false. None of that's true. He's not the son of Samael. And because of that, they villainized Samael, but Samael did never come here with malice. He never came here with malice. And he was sent away because the compassion that he felt for the feminine earth. Now, I'm not talking about the women. He actually had a physical connection to Mother Earth, and he was so in love with this planet, he wouldn't allow them to destroy it. He wouldn't even allow them to mine for the gold that he discovered, because he had made an agreement with Mother Earth that no man should break the earth without first giving the just sacrifice or of himself. In other words, no man should come in unto a woman without first proving himself worthy, is what he was saying. So they write it in the story as the man being the tiller of the ground, but they never tell you that he's not to till the ground without the permission. And this is why they got to teach you what they call the art of husbandry. Husbandry has nothing to do with a marriage. Husbandry is about maintaining the land. It's about keeping the balance. So when a woman's really craving a husband, she's not craving a consort. She's craving somebody that can help her to keep the land in balance, to keep the predators away from the prey animals, or to keep the children safe to go to school, away from those reptilian sociopaths that like to eat babies and rape babies. This is what she really looking for. And he ain't proving himself worthy, so she goes into a state of delirium. Is there anybody that can protect us? Is there anybody that can free us from this suffering? And so when we look at the whole picture, we end up with Constantine commissioning what they call the Nicene Council. In this council, they commissioned the Pope. This is where the Pope was put in power in 325. Now look at how long there was Christians before the Pope. The Pope was not put into office. There was no papacy before 325. Who ran the church? Who ran the church under Origen? Who ran the church under Thomas? Aquinas. Oh no, he was later on. It was what was his name? It was a guy back then named Thomas, Gospel of Thomas. And it was Gospel of Thomas was between the so-called crucifixion and the writing of the Revelations. Read the Gospel of Thomas, the one they called the doubter. Read the Gospel of Judas, the one they called the betrayer. Read the Gospel of Mary of Magdala, the one they called a harlot in error. Mary of Magdala was actually a very, very powerful woman. And her sister Martha was a very, very powerful woman. So they tell you that she was a harlot. Tell them to show it to you and don't tell it to you. Tell them to show it to you and don't tell them to show you anything that Mary Magdalene done that would earn her the title of harlot anywhere. Now, they going to take you to a woman that everybody was about to stone for being a prostitute or adulteress. That's not Mary Magdalene, and that story doesn't even say that it's Mary Magdalene. It's an entirely different woman. But Mary of Magdalene, or Mary Magdala, is the woman in which they said that the Christ loved dearly. Now, notice that. The Son of Man loved this woman dearly, but the church don't like her. How much sense do that make? Are y'all doing y'all math on this? Now, the Christ or the Son of Man loved this woman dearly, but the church says she's a harlot. Where's they getting it from? Tell them to show it to you. Okay? So now, when you see them in the Old Testament, all of these so-called disciples disappear. There's nobody there with the Son except 3 women. Mary the mother, Mary of Magdala, and Martha. The 3 sisters. The 3 sisters, who are they? The 3-phase moon, who are they? So, if we're looking at the whole story, we'll know. Iwas, going back to the tree, had to first be removed because Iwas was the tree of eternal knowledge, the knowledge of the forever time. They had to cut that tree down. Credo Mutu, I could tell you. They cut Iwas down, it was in South Africa. All right? When they did that, that's when they tied you to the silver cord. Because by tying you to the silver cord, it traps you in the loop. It traps you in the loop of reincarnation. In order to prevent you from turning on your inner light, that little sliver of gold in your heart chakra that'll light up your whole body with the love of the divine. In order to prevent that, they created something called the black goo. Now you see it in pop fiction as Venom on Spider-Man. You see it as Venom. But Venom don't take over your whole body just in case it's the heart chakra. And this is how it works. The 3rd dimension moves into the 4th dimension in spiral fashion. But nobody is talking about ascending to the 4th dimension. Why? Because as I said earlier, the 4th dimension was collapsed in on the 3rd, which is 444 hertz, being drawn down into the 300 hertz range. Right? So our next level up is actually the 5th dimension. And in order to get to the 5th dimension, we have to understand where we are now. So they had to chop that tree down in order to keep the 4th dimension within inside the 3-dimensional framework. So now you got what you know as astral projection and astral travel. This is because the 4th dimension is so tightly entwined now with the 3rd dimension that the lines are blurred. You can leave your physical form and walk around astrally in the 4th dimension. But you have a seal, what they call the circle of no pass. And this is the barrier between 4th and 5th. And the only way to get to the 5th is the energy of enough people have to start separating the energy of the 4th dimension from the energy of the 3rd dimension that's locked together. Now, what they want to do next, and I got to warn y'all about this because it's going to be the worst thing y'all could possibly have happen. They want to explode the particle accelerator in CERN while it's in the middle of opening up a 5th dimension portal. If it opens the 5th dimension portal and they explode it, it sucks 5 dimensions into the 3rd. That's not as good as it might sound. You don't want higher dimensions collapsing on lower dimensions. You don't want that. And this is the goal of CERN. And this is why they have Kylie in front of it because they know that if they don't get it done before she get back, she gonna tear their ass up for doing it. They already know this. So they want to mislead you and have you thinking that Kylie on board with this destruction that they trying to do. This is Enlil's people trying to prevent the women from reclaiming Earth and from reestablishing the balance of Mach, which will have humans not raping babies and not eating babies and not having a man seeing another man talking about how sexy he is. That's not normal. That's not human. That's reptilian. Enlil started it. Enlil started it. Enki ain't on board with none of that stuff, but he's outranked by Enlil. Now, being that I got seat number 50, I outrank both of them. So basically, that means that the inmates got the asylum and that we gonna run it in a manner that's in the best interest of all of us and not just some of us. And that we're not going to do this divide and conquer now. We're going to do this unity situation where we live like humans supposed to live before the war between the Babylonians and the Kemetic gods. So what they was telling you all this time, they only was telling you bits and pieces of the truth, but they was telling you everything, but they was breaking it up in a manner to confuse you. And as long as you stay confused, you can never put all of the pieces together. Black people agreed to this for one reason. Mama said, nobody can be thrown away. No human. Nothing that can receive the love of divine. Nothing that can receive the impressions of Creator. That can become sentient. That has the capacity to think, feel, love, and be loved should be thrown away like trash, like they did those people. And in order for her to get it through to everybody on this planet for future generations to come, that we record this and that the black people that suffered it stand to bear witness of the suffering and the pain of the suffering, that we remember how them Babylonians done those people and how those ruler gods obsessed with subjugating women subjugated an entire planet and took everybody out of the element of humanity and taught us to live like other than what we were and taught us to hate each other. And they taught us to kill each other and to eat each other. Half of us don't know that a lot of the food that we get in these supermarkets is actual human meat. They telling us it's everything but what it is, especially the ground meat. We eating each other. And as long as they got us eating this type of diet, it's going to keep us at the lowest possible vibration. Humans did not eat vegetables. Humans did not eat meat. Humans ate platinum group metals in monoatomic form. And this is why you have 40-day fasting. The 40-day fast is a prep for you to be able to assimilate the amount of energy that your body will be incorporating as a fourth dimensional being. Once you hit the fourth dimension, the brakes is off. Once the brakes is off, you're an X-Man. You are the most powerful, especially these women. And I can't warn y'all enough. Y'all can't lay with everybody. Y'all going to be sending people into strokes. They're going to be having comas and y'all not going to know what's happening. If you do not know how to control your energy, if you do not know what I'm talking about as a woman, you and that man you messing with is in a lot of trouble. You're not in any like condemnation type trouble. You're going to be in the trouble of grieving because you're going to be doing a whole lot of it trying to facilitate guys just not trying to assist with the cleanup. They won't be able to function. Is what I'm telling you. It's not that you're going to be doing anything wrong. You're going to be doing everything right. It's going to be the problem. But you're going to feel the emotional backlash of him not doing his work on self. Him not carving the edges. him not using his compass and square to become a worthy man, you're going to overload his circuits, and he's going to be a rain man if he lived through it. He's going to be permanently autistic. So be selective with who you lay with. Know that the energy that you're about to receive is going to be massive, but you're not going to feel much different. But the energy will be there in the portal of life to balance out the scales, where the wicked are going to be put into a place where the wicked are going to learn how to not be wicked. And that only place they can be is in the state where they're forced to see their own misery. All of the misery that they have exerted externally, now they're going to have to watch it internally. Because no matter what they do, they have to answer for it. They have to answer for it. So you'll have a guy, great guy, but he won't get married and he won't mess over no women, and the woman doesn't think something wrong with him. He know. And he don't want the backlash, and he want to be one of the last ones standing, and he want to be worthy. So he'll go the extra mile to take care of his kids, knowing that that reptilian female is not right for him or his child. He'll go the extra mile to give her the opportunity of proving herself worthy. But he already knows she ain't gonna make it. She gonna condemn herself, but then she gonna blame him. She not gonna make it. These guys that think they're gods, if they don't know what a god does, need to stop saying it. Because if you're going to proclaim to be something, you need to know what you're proclaiming to be. How does it work? What's the difference in a man and a god? What does a god do that a man doesn't? Now, I gave a whole thing about, so you say you're a god. And it's not a secret. You can go back and look at the video. But these women are about to get so much power that it won't be safe for a piece of crap dude to lay with one. He gonna be, we call him in the hood, pussy whoop. He gonna be looking for all day long with a flashlight in broad daylight, can't find her. It's gonna be sad. And some of these women who see a righteous man and they try to milk him for everything he got, he don't care about that money. Just so they know, he don't care about that money. You keep trying to milk him, and he in the back of his mind, he laughing. You don't care about that money because that's passé. That's temporary. What's eternal? The gold and the silver, the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. The gold and the silver within. Not the gold and the silver in your hand. Not the mark of the beast. You ain't talking I've been watching everybody trying to unravel this mark of the beast. And you're not going to be able to buy. You're not going to be able to sell unless you got the mark in your hand on your head. It's a goddamn dollar. It's always been the dollar, and it's always going to be the dollar. It's that simple. You either got the dollar in your hand or you thinking about the dollar. The mark of the beast. You can't do nothing righteous without somebody trying to put the dollar in the equation. If you try to do anything righteous, somebody want to put money in the mix. That's the mark of the beast. The grand deception, the great carrot on the stick. Can't worship man and mammon, both God and mammon. You can't worship both God and mammon. You're going to destroy yourself. And so in my early entry into the wearing down from what's becoming close to an end. But in the sacred halls, one of the first people I met was the person that I was most adamantly against being who they told me he was, as Masterfire Muhammad. So he was the first one I met. Before I met Elijah or Malcolm or Garvey, any of them in the sacred halls, they put Masterfire Muhammad before me. He was old and wrinkled up, and I was fucked up. Because he wasn't supposed to be old and wrinkled up according to how they eat to live. But then he told me, because that was the first thing I want to know. If you God, right, and I'm talking to one they call Masterfire Muhammad, the Sufi mystic. The one that they're trying to figure out what happened to him. And I know what happened to him, and I know where he at. I know where the body was, and all that. But I'm not finna get into that because that's not necessary for this video. Masterfire Muhammad told me the reason why he was all wrinkled and aged. He said because he was done with this physical form. He said, I began to eat 3 meals a day. I said, well, why would you do that if you're supposed to eat 1 meal a day and you're supposed to do everything according to righteousness? He said, look, I ate 3 meals a day because it accelerates my decay and accelerates my breakdown. It didn't make no sense to me. I didn't realize until last year after my graduation it was a riddle. And this is what the riddle was. He was telling me that at this day and time, the old ways would be hampered by greed. That's what he was telling me. When he showed himself as being aged, he's telling me this is the old ways. This is the old stuff, the old energy. And it's going to be hampered from the rebirth of the new energy by the 3 meals a day represented the greed. Because according to How to Eat to Live, if you're eating 3 meals a day, you're greedy. That's just that simple. You're greedy. 7 deadly sins: jealousy, envy, lust, greed, number 4. So greedy, what would make a person greedy? Deprivation. Deprivation is the fertilizer for greed. Who's been deprived? The American so-called Negro. Since he's been here, he's been deprived. Been deprived of everything that the Christ was deprived of in the crucifixion. He's been deprived of knowledge itself. Thorns on his head. Deprived of the right to build his own stuff with his hands nailed to the cross. Deprived of the right to walk the land freely with his feet nailed to the cross. And his blood has been contaminated against his will, thus seen by the spear of destiny as it mixes the blood in the urine. It's in your face. But I have to show you that it's in your face or you won't believe me. It's right there. The whole story is right there. So the judgment that Anu, who was authorized to issue a judgment because his rank was higher, issued the judgment on Nebuchadnezzar as the story is told. That's Hiram. That's the story of Hiram. Part of it. Part of it is in Ezekiel. Some of it is in the other lesser prophets. It's all there though. It's broke up. They use homonyms and synonyms. All of this stuff is relevant. They use star charts to confuse you because they know the stars not going to change. And that's one of the few things that they put in the books, no matter which one it is, that you can always check for frame of reference. They're not allowed to change anything stellar. If you see them write about a star, study that intently, because that's one of the few things that, according to the rules of this universe, they cannot change that on Earth where it cannot be referenced with the stars. Any book that they call a religious book, if it got stellar references, that's your starting point. Match the stars up first. Then match the stories up that fall under the stars. And then it'll clear itself up. You won't need nobody to do it for you. You won't need nobody. So this is why they keep telling you that it's astrotheology in the Bible, in the Quran, the Judaic religions. All they telling you is that everything man can change on earth, he can't change the stars in the sky. So your elders, your ancestors was wise enough to know this. So everything they did, they tied it directly to the stars so that you can read it in real time as it unfolds on earth. And that's why I pointed out when I was telling everyone Hiram was raised, the stars point to the Orion belt. Who is Orion? The great and mighty hunter. Who was the great and mighty hunter? Nimrod. Who was Nimrod? The one they feared. Who is the one they feared? The only one they couldn't defeat, Sun Wukong. But what happened to Sun Wukong? Sun Wukong met the Buddha. The Buddha sent him to tame his Sakoma, his monkey man. He named him Hanuman as he became realized, because he said, the Monkey King told the Buddha that no man may become God. They can all attain the level of a Hanuman. Look it up. It's no secret. It's all there. And so, if the Orion is the great hunter Nimrod, and if Nimrod is the only undefeated Sun Wukong, and the Sun Wukong went to the Buddha, the great wise one, and the great wise one told him he had to attain the wisdom of the ages before he could rule. And so he went on a journey to the west. Where would he go? Where would he go? If he's going on a journey to the west, where would he go? So at that time, the west was Africa. So he went to the Congo. So this is why they call him the King of the Congo. And they use a symbol of the gorilla, King Kong, because the gorilla is the only major mammal on the continent of Africa you will not find in the hieroglyphics. Now you got to ask yourself why. If they knew about chimpanzees and orangutans in Asia, well, not orangutans, because they wrote about them over in India. But if they knew about chimpanzees in Africa, if they knew about baboons in Africa, and they knew about the elephant in Africa, and the lion, and the wildebeest, and they knew about stuff in the water that y'all ain't even seen yet in Africa, how the hell they didn't know about the gorilla? Well, spoiler. The only reason the gorilla is not in the hieroglyphics is the last totem clan to rise on earth before the ascent would be the gorilla clan. So they were not allowed to use that symbol because the reign of Hanuman had not come. The reign of the Monkey King, crowned in the Congo, had not come. So they can't use his symbols prematurely. If they try to use his symbols, they would violate the rules and lose power instantly and ruin everybody's ascent, even though it's been evil, wicked, and painful. The whole purpose of giving her only begotten son is that no human be thrown away like trash and nobody be left behind who does not choose to be left behind. The only way you can choose to be left behind in the final ascension of this era is by choosing to do things that bring down your natural higher vibratory rate. You have to draw yourself down to becoming lesser than what you are. The more you try to become your best self, the more you can ascend and the more worthy you are to call yourself righteous. And this is why I say it's easier for a rich man to enter in through an eye of a needle it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is a realization. When you get the comforts and you stop doing the self-work because of the comforts of the life, you forfeit your right to ascend because you are content being less than yourself in the name of a dollar. You're content with being less than yourself in the name of a dollar. So as long as the money is more important than your family, you ain't gonna make it. If the money is more important than your people, than other humans, you're not gonna make it. I'm telling you now, the money is the mark of the beast. Always have been, always will be. The money, the greenback, is the mark of the beast. But it's not the money. You got to keep this in mind because it said the mark is in your hands and in your head, holding the money and thinking about it all day. When that's your only purpose in life is to make money, you are worthless. When your only purpose in life is to make money, you are worthless. You are guaranteed not to ascend because you will not do the internal work that every Mason must do. He will not prove himself worthy before the Lord. In other words, these women is the precursor, the first recognition of your righteousness. And they gonna pass you. They gonna raise you and pass you before mama. And then mama gonna call you approved or disapproved. Many are called, few are chosen. Y'all gotta remember that. They took all of our story, they watered it down, they mixed it up, they added smear campaigns, damnation, condemnation, divide and conquer, separation, corruption. They gave us physical diseases and mental diseases, and all of these things is to stop our ascent. But without the opposition, you will never know how strong you really are. And we, being guardians of the galaxy, always knew we were strong. You always heard us talk about, even when they told us we wasn't shit, how strong we were, how great we were, never knowing that we wasn't even showing our greatness yet. The pyramids pale in comparison to the work that we did in the cleanup after these Babylonian vampires, bloodsuckers that require the blood rights. That's why it tell you clearly, the Old Testament God required blood. The New Testament Christ requires righteousness. Do the math, and it's in your face. So it tell you in the New Testament that the Christ came that you can be free from the law and you can walk in grace. How do you do that? Because apparently we not free from the law. What is the law? It's the law of the Levite. What's the law of the Levite? They're all in there. It's the law of levies, Levites, levies, and liens. Lilo, don't pay them folks no attention. I got you. Me and you gonna talk later. The system of levies and liens is what they call the Levite system. That's why it leads with the word levy. The word levy is spelled Levi. They want you to worship God because God is a truth. Now, if you know Grimm's Law of Grammar, Grimm's Law of Grammar say all vowels and translation are interchangeable. One of the 12 tribes is called Gad, G-A-D, for they sing the truth. Gad is God. So you know you're worshiping now. So when you say Gad, you're still in their system. Gad is God. Not gut, not the German word for good. That's deception. I'm finna crack open some of this stuff before I wrap this video up. But that's the deception. Gad is who you calling on when you call God. One of the 12 tribes of Israel, and that's why your prayers don't get answered, because he don't have the authority to answer them. Gad, that you calling God, one of the sons of Israel, is not authorized to answer the prayer. That's why you have to attach it to the amen, because the amen has to exonerate him immediately when you say the prayer and call on God. The amen, the one who is ruling by deceit and deception, behind the scenes, that one has to immediately exonerate the tribe of Gad under the law of Levi. Now, under the law of Levi, when Levi issue a levy or declares you errant, and he issues a rant or a decree, a rant of war, a war rant for your detention, a warrant for your arrest, your restriction. He's binding you in the name of the law. You're bound in the name of the law. When you are arrested, the word arrest means to bound or restrict in the name of the law. So now, how do you get bound? Bound in the name of the law. You get bound in the name of the law as the resort of the war rant. A war rant is a declaration of war on an individual, but it's metaphysical, not physical. But it will leak physical, but it starts metaphysically with the war rant. The war rant is a decree or a declaration of war. This is mysticism, and it's not what you would call law and truth. This all of the stuff that's energetically being placed on you as a spell. The war rant is actually a spell. The spell binds you. In order to free yourself from the spell, you have to identify the rant of war. In other words, you have to identify, yes, GAD, the war rant, and you have to protest it. You have to become a Protestant. But when you become a Protestant and protest the war rant, you have to realize that you're doing it in front of one of the brothers, or a Judahite, or a judge. The judges are Judah. Judah is a judge, right? So that's why they're telling you that the Son of Man is from the line of Judah, but he's not of Judah. It don't make no sense. He's from the line of Judah, but he's not Jewish or a Judahite. He's not a Levite. He's not of the lawgivers. He's not of the lawgivers. And so, who does he fall under? He fall directly under the one they say is beloved, or Dawid. He falls under David because he is an expression of Solomon. How do you know? Solomon means the soul of man. What's the soul of man? The soul of man is a piece of gold that goes in your heart. It's the soul light. It's the ray inside of you. It's your pyramid, the pyro, your fire in the middle, right? So when they gave us all of these stories, they never sourced them for you because that's your job. The right to discovery is why they created a library, in order to bury everything in lies, because you got to dig out the truth. That's your job. So they told you they destroyed the libraries of Alexandria. No, they in the Vatican. That's the Vatican library now, because Rome won that part of the war. You got to remember, they called it Alexandria. Who conquered? Alexander. Who was Alexander? Alexander was the one who went in the Indus Valley to get the military doctrine that he needed to subjugate the rest of the world. The caste system. The caste system had to be adapted. How do you clean up the genetic mess? You tie it back in the source. They call it tying into the vine. If they don't tie into the vine, the genetics fall apart. So, black people that's been oppressed for 400 years wonder why we don't get no awards at the Oscars and the Grammys, and why they don't recognize us when we sell 50 million records the same as they do with Justin Timberlake. You got the pyramids. You don't need that shit. You created music. You don't need no Grammy. You created that shit. You wrote the fucking notes. The original notes of music was written by black women, or as they call black goddesses, that they call them enchantresses. This is where it come from. So, if the white people that you see in the Caucasus, Yaqub's grafted devil, as the Nation of Islam call them. The word devil means your enemy. That's all it means. In nation doctrine, it means that which is not original. If that which is not original becomes immediate in conflict with that which is original until a synthesis is found. Hegelian dialectic. Hegelian dialectic. You know? So you got to find the synthesis. So what do? You tie in that which is defective into that which is not defective. For a period of time, you will oscillate between defect and no defect until balance is met. And that's the law of Mach. So the reason why black people agreed to this suffering and oppression, because it was the fastest way. And we were the only ones strong enough. And they was the only ones heartless enough. And when you put it all together and you do the math, you realize it wouldn't work no other way. We was strong enough, smart enough, and wise enough to do it, but we was too loving, kind, compassionate, and caring. We couldn't bring ourselves to oppress ourselves in order to clean the shit up. They never had a family. They never had they're what God call men of big affairs before the rise. Go back and look at the history from an outside perspective. You'll see it right there. So Mama wanted them to know what it was like to rule. And she wanted them to understand what it was like to be in power, have power, hold power, and fight the corruption that comes with the power. And so you hear them saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is all what we're talking about. And so, in summarizing it, the white people that was originally there don't exist no more. The level of birth defects is diminishing, so they have to artificially construct birth defects using the vaccines and the modern medicine and the poisoning of the child in the womb to simulate the birth defects that would not otherwise be there. When they stop doing that is when we tell them that we're not going to allow our women to be experimented on while they're gestating our next generation. And we will stop using hospitals for pregnant women. And all over you'll see what they call Doula Centers, midwifery, the original stuff. The Doula Center was the true sources of healing for Earth. And I see you giving me hearts because you're going to be in there on that Doula Center. You can give me a whole bunch of more of them. I see you. Anyway, so the Doula Center is where pregnant women go to gestate in peace. Now, the Doula Center is only necessary for special women because once the family structure is set up in its proper order, the Doula Center will be in the center of the village. And the women will naturally go there at the time they discover they're pregnant. And they'll stay there until they give birth because they're going to get certain things in the Doula Center that they're not going to ever get in a hospital. The hospital was never meant for sick people. You got to remember the hospitals were hospitality places for sojourners to go at night. Those were the original priestesses of Neith. And that's why the nurses wear the white uniform. Those were the uniforms of Neith. Those were her dress. You go back and look in the pyramids and you'll be surprised at how much Neith is dressed like a modern day nurse. Because her place of hospitality had nothing to do with the places of sex that they turned into brothels in the rape campaign, in the subjugation of the woman. And so now we got the whole story laid out in front of us when Constantine is putting this cross-dresser in the place of the Black Madonna in Rome. And because he done this dude been masquerading as the Black Madonna ever since. And he's an imposter. The whole male priest, the only priest should be there is what you call your Swiss Guard, which is the protectors of the external reaches of the Madonna priesthood, or what they call your Catholicism, which is the cataholics, which goes back again to the stars tying into the planet, which is your zodiacal sign of Leo, which is the Sphinx, which is the female guardian of Earth, who sits and waits and looks to the west for the Son of Man to rise in the place where the three Orions, Orion Township, and it's Orion Township and Lake Orion, where the three Orions are in the right hand of the mother, which is the state of Michigan, which is in the land of the chief of the two feathers, which is the land of the one who speaks the truth. The two feathers is he's standing on his second. All you Moors know what I'm talking about. If he's standing on his second, then he's speaking from the position of truth. And if he's speaking the truth, that'll go ties directly back into your revelation of he spoke and the two-edged sword came out of his mouth. For the truth cut both ways. It cut the righteous and the unrighteous because don't nobody want to hear it, because don't nobody want to be accountable. But it's too late. We done all been held accountable. All we got to do is accept that we have been held accountable. We paid our penance, and now we need to unify in order to escape the destruction of the unrighteous, because nothing unrighteous can ascend, only the righteous. And they're all humans. Check this. All humans now have the right to ascend. Don't mean they're going to ascend. That don't mean they're going to taste eternal life. Because you have the right to eternal life. You can forego that. Some of them thought it was a joke and literally for money on the table, stacks of money, sold their soul I found a way out for him. Mama said find a way out for him. Now, whether they wise enough to make allegiance to her or not is up to them. But they sold it. And now they are a permanent slave in eternity to Enlil. He bought it. You know who the devil is now. And you know why he can transform himself into an angel of light. Because he's an avian. He's an avian. When I say avian, I mean he's from a bird clan. A reptilian bird clan. He's a shapeshifter. He deceived Lilith twice. Neith. He pretended to be the Adam Cadmon who couldn't perform to get her drunk and try to rape her. She called his ass on his bullshit. Then he disgraced her and called for her to be judged. Then he pretended to be the son and shapeshifted and condemned his so-called sister and to the dismal abyss for 1,000 years. And they went on a smear campaign. They feared her. They called her a rebellious woman, just like her mama. I did the story of Lilith already. Go back and check it out. You don't know what I'm talking about. The unity doctrine is the only redemption for humanity as a collective. Otherwise, the only ones who will ascend are the ones who have been doing what is considered to be righteous, not by what no book say, because righteousness is written in your heart. It's written on your soul. No book can tell you to do what you know in your heart is right. If a book tell you to do something you know in your heart is wrong, no matter how hard you try, something in you is going to rebel. Something in you is going to rebel. Now, so the black people paid the price, a small group, and it caused a conflict among black people. Because some black people said, you assimilationist ass Negroes, all of y'all need to die too. Because they were sent by Enlil to undermine the program. Because he don't never want nothing associated with the woman to prosper. Every time the woman want to do something, he want to kill it. So we got to restore ice skating. We got to restore ballet. We got to restore the singing. We got to restore the dancing. Everywhere you look, we have to see singing and dancing women and children with no alcohol, no PSP, and no LSD, and no cocaine, no heroin, dancing and singing. You're going to immediately feel that energy. You're going to immediately feel that energy shifting. When we flip this grid, anything that ain't right won't stay. I'm going to say it again because phone going to be dying soon, and I only put enough on to do this video. I only wanted to charge enough. I wanted to cut off at the end of the video, and it's about to do that. And so the ritual dance has to be specific. It has to be performed and written by the modern day women, incorporating old techniques and new techniques. In other words, tying alpha to omega. Y'all got to pay attention. Tying alpha to omega. Because as it was in the beginning, it has to be in the end. So now, all women have mitochondria. And the white man hate the white woman because she had the first right to ascend before him. Now you know. The white man hate the white woman because she had the right to ascend before him. Because her genetics was cleaned up first at the mitochondrial level. And she was able to give and receive love as a mother. And it pissed Enlil off. And he screamed, and they say his voice was like many waters, and it shook both the heaven and the earth. So now you know. Babylon versus Egypt. And this is why your Egyptian pantheon and your Egyptian story, if you go back, you'll remember in the story of Isaiah, nope, not Isaiah, Elijah. And they pointed all of this, they got all these priests out here trying to ignite this pyre of wood on fire. And he asked them about his Egyptian deities. Where your Egyptian gods now, huh? They ain't around, are they? Watch man. Fire. Same as in the story of Exodus, when they talk about the so-called Moses going there, and Moses is asking them, where your Egyptian gods now? Never telling you Moses was an Egyptian god. Never telling you that the Moses that was raised in the Pharaoh's house was the Pharaoh to be and became the Pharaoh. And that is this is why the Jews are waiting on Moses. Pay attention. The Jews is waiting on Moses because the Moses is the son of man. And they know that the Christ in the New Testament is not a man. So they're not waiting on her. The Zionists, as they call, the ones that wrote the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, which is the current blueprint for world domination that they following, not followed, past tense, ing, current tense. They're doing it now. If you see everything that they controlling in the protocols, and you step back and you look at everything they control in real life, and they are exactly the same thing, it takes all of the guesswork out of it. It's the blueprint. But where did they get it? And who is these elders? These wise elders was a military contingent put together, not even in Israel. They was put together in the mountains of Europe where the catastrophe was discovered. And these people were called Khazars. They put together the protocols. The Khazarians. The Khazarians are not even human. They are Gulam, a whole race of Gulam, and they're trying to overthrow humans, both reptilian and mammalian humans. And they trying to get in the middle of the conflict and put themselves as the rulers of it. But Enlil did that. Enlil did that. And so you have two other groups that didn't know what to do because of the war between the Moors and the Christians, the Islamic Moors and the Christians. They became Hebrews as Sephardi and Ashkenazi. And that pissed off the guy they call Hitler because he knew that all three of these groups was not the real so-called Jew. And that Hitler was not the madman they made him out to be. You got to remember that the victors, that the history is written by the ones who win, not by the ones who lose. But if you look at the context, what happened to all the Hitler scientists? They all came to the United States and got jobs under Operation Paperclip. All of the ones who wasn't part of Enlil's domination over here was tried in Auschwitz and executed. Or not Auschwitz, they was tried in the Geneva Convention. They was tried in Geneva, Switzerland, in a neutral country and put to death. No, Hitler was not good, but he wasn't bad. The whole goal of Adolf Hitler, and this is where I'm gonna end this at, because we in 1940s now, and we came a long way seeing how blacks accepted this oppression. Adolf Hitler was one of these so-called Jews, and they needed to set up a false Israel to deceive you from where the real Holy Land is. And they looked all over. They was originally trying to set up in Brazil. You got to remember this when we talked about Brazil earlier in Brazilianization. They originally was going to set up in Brazil, what we call Israel today. They first had to get enough sympathy on a global platform for the world to accept a hostile regime being installed as a foreign government in somebody's home. You needed a whole lot of global support, meaning that the military support for it must be so overwhelming that wherever they do it, everybody going to comply. So now, Adolf Hitler did it by initiating what they called the genocide. They didn't kill all them people, first of all. And the only ones they killed, when you look at the record, was what they called the ones that were impoverished. Now, why would you only kill off poor people? It's easier, faster, and more effective to start a new nation on the backs of the wealthy than it is on the backs of the poor. The wealthy can come into a strange place if they got the means and pay everybody that's already there to do their work. Whereas the poor got to physically do the work and build it themselves. Basic economics. Now, so Adolf Hitler's goal was to establish the state of Israel as a distraction from the true Holy Land, because the true Holy Land is never going to be called Israel. It never has been and it never will be. It's in both the Kemetic hieroglyph and it's in the Sumerian tablets as the Absu. The Africans call it Zululand. And it also encompasses a very specific area called the Congo. That's the Holy Land. I'm telling y'all where the Holy Land at. If you don't believe me, go send some reporters to ask Credu Mutwa or Goodwill Zwilithini, where is the Holy Land? But I'm going to tell you this, as soon as they ask them, they're going to ask you where I am. They're going to flat out say, where is he? If you ask either one of them two, they're going to say, where is the son? They're going to want to know where I am for sending you to ask them. So whenever one of your reporters go over there and ask them, let them know that when they ask them, they're going to want to know where I'm at, and they're not going to be friendly. All of that friendly shit going to be gone as soon as you ask them these questions. Where is the real Holy Land? Is it Zululand and the Congo? When you ask them that, all of the game's going to be done. There's nobody on the motherland going to be nice to nothing that don't cooperate with me. And there's some shit over there y'all ain't never heard of or seen. When you see the story of Panther, and you read about Wakanda, when you see what they're talking about Wakanda,